our friends in Tuscany, they have this house that you face on the Chianti Valley. But then we brought in a folkloristic band. They were dancing. They really felt like like my friends when we get together in Italy. They were drinking limoncello. They were having grappa. They were having bottles and bottles of wine. They were tasting delicious meal, and nobody was ever uncomfortable. And you know the funniest thing? My friends don't speak English, but they always understood each other.
Welcome to the Where Have You Been podcast. I'm your host, Bill Ream, and each week on the pod, I have conversations with incredible guests from all walks of life. Expect to hear funny, crazy, emotional, life-changing, and even sometimes life-threatening stories and experiences that will entertain and inspire you. As always, I appreciate your likes, subscriptions, ratings, and reviews wherever you are listening. It doesn't sound like much, but it truly helps the pod get to the ears of more people who may enjoy it. And check out the website, whybpodcast.com, for links to the socials where you can find pictures from the guests and their stories, and also buy merch if you're so inclined. Now let's get to this week's episode. Thank you for being here. So sometimes I feel like I should get inventive and maybe a little bit creative, but I stick with the same thing every time. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another fantastic episode of the Where Have You Been podcast. As always, I'm your host, Bill Ream, and this week I am joined for one of the very few times that we've done this, that we've had multiple people on the podcast at the same time. We are lucky enough to have the king and the queen of the Mediterranean lifestyle. We have some very creative folks as well. We have Anita and Dario on the episode today. And so I would like to say welcome, you guys. And if you would please let our listeners know, who are you?
No, thank you so much. I really appreciate you having us.
Thank you for having us.
So, we were dubbed as the king and queen of the Mediterranean lifestyle, and we talk about eat, work, and play, the Mediterranean lifestyle. And so, of course, we're talking about the play part because we're talking about travel today, which really always excites us. So, for myself, I went to college for travel many, many years ago, and I worked in the travel industry. And I guess 22 years ago, I started doing programs called Getaway to Find Your Way that were really exploring a different kind of travel. It's not the, as we call, the bucket of rocks kind of experience, but really engrossing yourself in the culture and learning from other people around the world. So I felt it was really important. And so when Dario and I got together, we decided, Dario, of course, is a chef, to create experiences in the Mediterranean where he was born and raised, and giving that experience of what it's like to eat, work, and play the Mediterranean way, and really incorporate a different way of living. It's not a diet. It's not a hustle culture. It's not a retirement, but really savoring life and understanding the next chapter of your life and how to explore on that. And I always love Dario's story, and he can tell it better, of how he kind of decided to get into being a chef by what was said to him when he was younger by an older man that he saw in the I always love this story.
Well, travel, like you said, is a big part of our life. For me, being a chef and traveling around the world, this was probably one of the best things about not just the experience of learning new culture, but really flavoring whatever you are. My experience, Anita is talking about, I was a young boy in Italy, and we were playing around with my friends, and there was all these older people playing cards, and we were running around the tables with these older men. He's 70, kind of grabbed my arm, looked at me with those eyes, and he says, "Oh my goodness, if I could ever go back, I would travel the world." And to me, that moment, I still remember to this day. It was what triggers me. I said, you know what? I will never want to be in a situation that I am back, and I'm going to be stopping to discover things that are very important to me. And that was it. That really triggered the whole thing. Went to culinary school, and I started really traveling the world from coast to coast, basically from Europe to Asia to South America to North America, where we are right now.
So did you know when I'm sorry to interrupt, did you know when you decided to go to culinary school that was going to be part of your ticket in order to get to see the world?
That is a very good question, actually. That's actually
You got to tell about the chef with the cruise.
yes.
Yeah.
Uh, so my grandmother. I grew up with my grandmother, and one of the biggest thing in my family was about I had to be a doctor or I had to be a lawyer. And I was in private school pretty much most of my life. And when I finished, everybody was expecting me to go to university to become a doctor or a lawyer. And and I was fascinated with this chef. Then he was not very far from our town. Then he was the chef of the well-known love boat, the Pacific Princess. And whenever he was coming back, when he was off the boat, he was telling a story of the country was seeing and all that. And I always had this passion for cooking. And I said, wow, I can put these two things together. So I went back home and I told my family, I said, I'm not interested really to go into becoming a doctor or a lawyer, but I really am interested on becoming a chef. And everybody was kind of shook up with that. And the passion really kicked in and became contagious. And I've been very fortunate. It's been now 45 years that I've been doing this. And has given me an opportunity to really savor everything around the world, learning, which is always the main ingredient, I always say, and really discover. You need to be uncomfortable to be comfortable. Now, the best part of us is we share it with each other and learning things together. Traveling is always the cure.
Yeah. I remember when I was young, my parents are from the Netherlands. And so we used to go back every year as an infant, really. And so as I started realizing it, I remember I used to always think it was a dream. I'd go to the towns where my family were from and the cobblestone streets and the church bells that would ring and the people and how they did things differently. They'd speak differently. And I just felt like it was more of a life. I don't know how to explain it. And I'd come back and I'd talk to my friends back in class back home and I'd kind of explain these things and they always thought it was so strange. So I think travel was embedded in both Dario and I from very, very young.
Yeah, and that's one of the questions that I like to ask very early on, and you've just answered that at least for yourself. And so, Dario, did your family also travel before you got into cooking?
Well, my family did travel. My family did travel, but it was a different type of travel. I mean, they would go to places, they would go, but it was always based around Europe. To me, I was always fascinated with different type of culture. So Europe was great, but to me, I was always fascinated with, the Asian culture, the South American culture. And I embedded myself to a point in I wanted to learn the language. I wanted to learn the culture. And that allowed me to these days now to speak 4 languages. So wherever I go,
English is his worst language, by the way.
yes, it is.
Well, that says something because you're doing fine.
I get into places and I really embed myself into the real culture. And I think the biggest thing sometimes, and I see even with our clients, whenever they come to a culinary retreat, whatever we are bringing them, said, you need to live and feel the moment. You need to be feeling the experience, the flavor, the culture, the way people think. And and after a while, everything feels good. Um, and becomes natural, becomes super, super natural. So to me, my family, one thing that I've been very thankful, then at the beginning when they thought, wow, okay, so he's not gonna do this, but he's gonna do something that's gonna make him happy.
Mhm.
And they encouraged me.
But your family also had restaurants and hotels too. So that was sort of embedded in you from very young.
Yeah.
But it wasn't supposed to be really your career.
No, he was.
But maybe it wasn't a total shock to everybody. And you said something that I think kind of hit me a little bit and made me
What?
think about how you traveled mostly in Europe when you were young, which makes
Right.
sense. I mean, it's so easy to get around Europe once you're there. But I think it's probably, even though there's so much diversity and so much difference depending on where you go in Europe, there's still a lot of similarities. And I think the United States is probably a lot like that for those of us that live in the States. There is a lot of diversity and there's a lot of different cultures and different things you can see and experience, but you're still in the United States and it's still so much more similarity than difference probably, that to get to another continent or move to another part of the world is such a difference.
It's funny you say that because just as you were saying that, it brought me a memory. So I grew up I was born in Milan, but we grew up on the lakeside, the other side of Lake Como, in Lake Maggiore, which basically is 40 minutes from the Switzerland border. And at the age of 17, I started working in Switzerland. And the funniest thing, you think it'd be such of a neighborhood country, really close, but very different. Italy is always this confusion, things all over the place. As soon as I would jump on a train and I crossed that border, it was completely different. The pristine Alps. It looked like people were vacuuming their trees because everything was just perfect, green, fantastic. And it took an adjustment at the beginning because, one of the greatest things about Italian, they're wild and crazy and chaotic. But on the chaos, they seem to find themselves very easily. And when you just move over really 40 minutes away, it's a completely different experience. And I found it really fascinating. And it allow you to adjust and to understand it.
We often talk about when we go to Italy and we do our retreats, we usually stop in to see, because all my family's in the Netherlands, and we stop there. And it's always funny because we go to rent a car in Italy and it can take us, 30 minutes, if not more.
Sometimes an hour.
And then we end up in Holland and we go to rent a car and it's 5 minutes, we're done and out. And it's just so orderly. So it's just so interesting how things are different. And I find sometimes the Italians, they think so much with their heart, and the Dutch, they think a lot with their mind, right? A lot with their brain and organization. So it's interesting. It's interesting to see the different cultures for sure.
Yeah, it's really fascinating when you really think about it, and especially when you
Right.
get to actually experience some of these different cultures. Well, I want to ask you before we get too deep into the weeds here, just out of respect for you guys, I want to, I know I could definitely use, having been to the Mediterranean, I could definitely use more Mediterranean lifestyle in my life if I could somehow make that happen, working as a banker with a 9 to 5 hustle job. But tell us about what you have with your website, any socials that you have, and where people can find you, if you don't mind just kind of hitting on that before we move too far in.
Yeah, of course. Well, our website is oliveyourlife.org, and a lot of our blogs. We have a cooking arm on it. We really encourage people to cook back in the kitchen again. So we have a cooking arm with recipes in there and shows that we have on our YouTube channel. And for our handle for a lot of the socials, it's oliveyourlife.now. And again, we say it's live your life, and it's the play on the olive, and it's talking about, as Dario always talks about, conviviality. It's the Latin word for connection and being close to each other. And so that's what our whole brand is about. It's building this community that wants to look at things differently. How can you do this at home? How can you create a different way of seeing things? And that's how we bring people to the Mediterranean, to explore that, to see, how can you still run a successful business, and how can you still have an ambitious career, but live it the Mediterranean way? How do you eat back with the resources and foods and simple recipes that you can, connect at home again, instead of getting home and being on the phone? Really connect with your family, and it's either your spouse or your kids or your friends. How do you create meals together and enjoy those times at the table, cooking together and eating together? It's about playing. It's about getting out and walking in nature, connecting again around being active naturally, living your passion, doing those things that, for Dario, he's lived it all his life. For me, going to the Mediterranean and being with his friends on a Thursday night, or sorry, Tuesday night even, they'll call us and say, "What do you want for dinner?" And we'll head on over there, and there'll be 30 people at the table, and no one's looking at their watch, thinking about, "Oh, I got to be in bed because tomorrow I got to work." Or they live. They don't live to, what do they call that phrase? You don't live to work, you work to live. You don't work to live, you live to work. That's what it is. And so it's those passions and really enjoying it.
It's a very interesting. It's the asphalt culture, I call it. One of the biggest thing I felt when I came to North America, I never forget. It was my first weekend I was here, and I remember I get down from my building, my condo, and downtown, and everybody's running. And I say to my friend, I said, "What's going on? What is everybody running to?" So, "Well, they got to go to work." Oh my God. And they're already stressed before they even go. So what's going to happen by the end of the day? It's just this rat race that you always live. And I think eventually at some point, you got to realize what is really important to you. Work is important, you got to work hard, but you also need to understand and you need to work out also smart. But the next thing was, I was at an event, and I remember, we were talking, we were being convivial with a group of people. And then this gentleman comes to me and he said, "Oh my God, we need to get together again. Do you have a calendar?" And I look at him and said, "Yeah, I have a calendar." And he says, "Wow, are you available? Let's book it for October." And I think it was in the summertime. And I'm like, uh, let me tell you something. I don't know what I'm going to do tomorrow, but if you come by my house and you see my car there, just knock the door and pop in. The worst thing that can happen, I'm not available. I'm going to tell you. But it's this, this feeling of being spontaneous. What is the best moment in your life? When you don't expect them, when you're spontaneous, when you live that moment, you feel it, then give those goosebumps, then you never expect them. That's when you really live. We all feel trapped, but there is always a way out. There is always a gate. We just have to look at it. And once you see that, you feel free. You feel the opportunities are always going to be there. So, yeah, it's just different.
Yeah. And I'll say for sure, you described it very, very, properly. Like the way we live growing up in the United States, especially, is, we have to get to the next thing. And then what's the next thing after that? And then make sure I have time to go do the next thing after that. And then, down to some people are like, what show am I going to watch tonight on TV? And then, what time is the game on? And instead of just letting life happen and seeing what actually happens, I think most of us are guilty of that. And you even brought up a point where you talked about like the Italian family and how sometimes it's a little bit chaotic and loud and crazy, but there is so much, it's built on so much love, I feel like, from what I've seen and experienced, that the chaos and everything is that's just a fun part of it. Because again, I think because a lot of it's so spontaneous. So I think we could take a lot of lessons from.
Yes, I think we do.
I think travel opens you up to that too, right? When you meet people and you see their cultures and the way they live, and so many different people around the world. Like we talk it as the Mediterranean lifestyle because Daria's lived it and I've seen it. But taking that message, you don't have to live in the Mediterranean. You have to travel there. You have to see it. And how can you bring that back home?
But it's also travel with purpose. That's one of the things. And when we travel, me and Anita travel very well together. We just love our experiences. And no matter where we go, we kind of mix and match. There are times when we travel to a country and for 3 weeks, maybe a month, we don't even rent a car. We just grab our backpack and we fit right into with the local. We want to learn. We want to understand. And from there, things happen. Like we
Yes.
We meet the most interesting people.
Yes, and that's what really fuels you. And when you come back, you remember those things, and hopefully you keep the relationship for the future.
Yeah, and sometimes it's a matter of being open to it and letting it happen. And sometimes you need a little push. Sometimes you need to start the conversation with someone. But we've mentioned it many times on the podcast that some of the best experiences, whether you're traveling solo or with a partner or a friend or whatever, some of the most incredible memories that you have are the ones where you have interactions with other people, whether it's other travelers or people who are local to the region or whatever. Those can make such a difference on creating memories that you would never otherwise have. So,
And lifetime friendships, really, a lot of time. Yeah.
Oh,
well, I think this is a perfect moment to segue into the bulk of what we talk about on the episode. And this is where I say the name of the podcast itself, which is Anita and Dario, where have you been?
Wow. That's a real open question. So
I think we need some time.
Maybe where haven't you been?
no, and there's many places I still want to go. And it's interesting because, we have what we call our bucket list of places that we want to go and places I want to still experience. And some of them, I want to make sure that I do them sooner rather than later because they're a little bit more active. And I want to make sure that I'm healthy enough to do some of those things as well, right? So, there's a little bit of an order to the things that we want to go and see. Well, there's a lot of travel that we did before each other. We've been together now 11 years. And so we call it our second chance. And we've been grateful to have that because our exes didn't really want to travel much. And so we traveled a lot independently, me having a travel agency, me working in travel. There's been a lot of places I've been to on these fam trips where you go to explore places and learn about the hotels and the different to do things that you're supposed to go to me traveling on my own and creating the retreats that I did, mostly for female business women, and learning and creating those goals. Because I always find that when you travel, you open yourself up to self discovery, right? And then coming home, and how do you keep up with those goals and what to do? Traveling to Europe, traveling to Costa Rica, the stories that we have. Dario and I, he works as a culinary professor. He ran the Italian program for chefs to get their masters in Italian cuisine. And one of the benefits was he was able to take off it was a year, I think, of a sabbatical, and the rest were sort of tie-ons to the Italian program because he would bring chefs to Italy so that they could learn and experience what it was like to cook in Italy and see what a kitchen was like in some of the top restaurants. So overall, we were for 2 years in each other's pockets, and we traveled all over, right?
It is, and every country is different. If you go to India, for example, we had experience in India there. That can be overwhelming. You can in situation and you kind of maybe be a little bit uncomfortable, but you allow yourself to be comfortable. Um, to Asia, I was fortunate enough to be in country where I open hotels and had the opportunity to travel. I remember Venezuela when Venezuela was a country, then it was free and wonderful things were happening there. Jakarta, I remember when I got into Jakarta and and I saw a market and I right away attracted me. So I get off the hotel and and the and the mm, and the gentleman, the reception says, "Sure, where are you going?" I said, "Well, I'm going to the market over there." I said, maybe we should recommend you to go with someone to show you." I said, "No, I want to feel it. I want to feel it myself. I mean, I really want to feel those things." And so I think uh, travel is freedom, and it depends what it is. I go back again. You need to be in a situation that you can be a little uncomfortable, and once you pass the barrier, you will feel incredible. I mean, we were in Costa Rica for what, 2, 3 months, I think.
3 months, yeah.
And one of our experience was we would walk every morning to the beach, probably for, I don't know, 1 hour, 2 hours. And we would wanted to go to get fresh fish from the fishermen. And it was probably 45-minute walk from the beach. And so this day we are walking in, we got our knapsack on it, and we walk. And there is this little stream that comes from one side of the beach to the other one. They say, "Oh, that's interesting." So we cross over, we go to the fishermen's. They give us all this fish. I mean, we got tons of fish. They pack it in ice, put it in a backpack. We walk back to our house. But this time, as we walk back, the little stream became almost a river because the tide really came up. And I'm like, oh my God. So here I am. I mean, I'm 6'4", so I'm standing on my tippy toes, crossing this river now,
And I had to swim it.
and I'm even swimming right over. I was like,
gosh.
we got fish dripping because it's pretty hot. We get back to our.
I did put it on ice, but
We get back to the house. We put all our stuff up, and our neighbor said, "Oh, where did you guys go?" "Oh, we went to get fish over to the thing." And one point there was a little stream that turned out into a big river. And this lady said, "And what did you do?" I said, "Well, we crossed it, and I was swimming, and I just." And they look at us and say, "Are you guys crazy?" And I said, "What do you mean?" And he said, "This is what Crocs go over."
we were like a buffet, dripping fish on their whole bodies. They're
Oh my
probably
gosh. Yeah, you were baited and everything.
Or the perfect date, I'll tell you. But the point is this, I mean, Costa Rica is one of the countries that has got wildness. You got a bit of everything. And we were just so nonchalant. We were just living that moment. We were chatting, we were talking, we were doing things without even thinking about it. Now, when we think about it now,
Well,
uh,
we weren't Costa Rican headline news, so that was a good thing.
that's it. Right.
For that day anyway. But with Costa Rica, I'll give that as one example. We have lots of them. We went there for 3 months to experience it. The first part of it, we didn't rent a car. We walked everywhere because we really wanted to be one with meeting people. And sometimes people would come by that kind of had seen us, and they say, "Oh, do you want a lift?" We get a lift. We would, we'd go into different towns. We would do all these different experiences. And one day, we were like, "Why don't we do an event?" And we had met through this experience someone that had this, it was kind of like a villa type of thing, hotel, boutique.
Restaurants.
Yeah, it had restaurant. And so why don't we do an event and showcase Italian cuisine with local food? And so we're like, yeah, that's a good idea. So as we're walking, I happened to have her number in WhatsApp. So I WhatsApp her and said, are you interested in doing this? And she said, sure. And so we ended up meeting them at a restaurant, which was along the way. They came by, we met, we kind of summed up how we were going to do it, a general idea. I put out a social media post, and within 30 minutes, this event was sold out. And it was so interesting how you just kind of sometimes think out of the box and meet people and understand the culture and engross yourself in that, and how these things unfold and how exciting it is. Now, the last month we did rent a car and we decided to travel around. So we went to Montezuma, we went to Ariel. And again, even there, what we did is we didn't go to necessarily the TripAdvisor place to go to, because a lot of them aren't necessarily good. They'll pay off people to give the high ratings for it. It's those hidden gems that the locals go to. And a lot of those experiences we actually have on our YouTube channel, which is Oh Live Your Life TV. And we have a whole Costa Rica section. We've got like this restaurant that all the locals went to. We have a lot of little clips on Costa Rica as one of the examples on Anita and Dario Adventures, and just showcasing some of those little hidden gems, and those are the ones that just, you just have them in your bones. You remember them forever.
Yeah, Costa Rica, if you know me, is one of my favorite places on earth. So,
Hmm.
and I can second that 100%. You find a little mom and pop restaurant off to the side of the road, and it's sometimes there's not even really seating necessarily or whatever, but they're serving food, and it's some of the most fantastic. I've had some of the best ceviche of my life in
Oh,
Costa
amazing.
Rica, in a little hole in the wall place that she just wouldn't even necessarily think to go to. But I will say something, because I want to touch on this, because you've made me think this multiple times throughout what you've been saying. Life is what you get out of life, what you put into it, right? But I think travel even magnifies that even more. I think what you put into travel, you'll get back. So if you don't do any work whatsoever, you can enjoy yourself and you can relax and whatever. And if that's what you want, that's great. But if you really want to immerse yourself, you just put in a little bit of effort, and man, it can be life changing. So
Yeah. Yeah. And, we've done those trips where we've gone to a resort and we stayed on the beach. And that's kind of the stage and what we were looking for. And so there's times for that. There's times to relax. There's times to pick those vacations. There's times where we've been to resorts. It was Las Cabos, and we decided we wanted to go into town. So we walked on the beach into town, and it is kind of helpful because Dario is fluent in Spanish. So, and he also opened up a hotel in Las Cabos too, so he knows the area a little bit. But, it depends on what stage you're in. But if it's nice to explore those different things and not keep yourself closed in, and think of travel as a way to explore yourself and also explore other people.
yeah, for sure. And you've already touched on some really incredible stories up to this point, and I can't believe we're already almost probably about halfway through our discussion. But I just wonder, like, so if we just meet each other for the first time and we're just sitting down, again, you've already told a few of those probably stories that are top of mind, but is there any, like, what are the favorite experiences that you guys have had, whether it's together or apart, either way, that you just like, if we sit down and we start talking about our experiences, like, these are the ones I have to tell you about when this happened. Anything that pops into your mind?
I think the restaurant, I think it is the place in Costa Rica, the restaurant beside the arena. So we are
And this experience is on our YouTube channel. If anyone's interested.
We are lost now. We are lost in Monteverde and around the Arenal area. And we are going through these roads. We are trying to figure out where we are. And the roads are horrific. So we are driving with this SUV, and all of a sudden I see these little restaurants and these young men, but the restaurant's closed. So I get off the car and I go inside. There is nobody in it.
The doors were open.
The doors were open. And then in the back, I see a little garden, this young man picking vegetable, herbs, and all that. And we start talking. And, he's very passionate young man. He's a chef. And I said, listen, are you open? He said, well, we're open tonight. But if you want to have an experience, it's a little bit out of the way. There is this restaurant up the street. And I'm like, up the street where? There is no roads here. And so we are going and I'm telling you, I thought we were not going to make it. And as we get there, there is this beautiful little place. Then is facing the Arenal volcano. And nobody knows. Nobody will ever know about this place. But the local knows. We get in there. And
it wasn't that hole in the wall. It was very, very nice, actually.
Very nice.
Beautiful.
But it was in the middle of
only the
nowhere.
locals knew about it.
So you walk in and you smell Costa Rica. They're cooking.
The good Costa Rica.
They're cooking things on coffee wood, like the plant where they make the coffee.
Yeah,
they are breaking it down and they have the wood burning stove. Then they give you these tapas, this. It was just incredible experience. And I ate things and I didn't even know what they were. It was one of those moments that I really felt then, wow, you really need to get lost in order to find this little gem. The other one I think was in France.
Yeah.
Before
our business actually started, actually.
That's right. Yeah. So we are driving from Italy and we are going to one of Anita's dream was always to go in Périgord, which is in a province of Dordogne, food valley of France. I said, okay, well, we'll drive over, and we booked this place. That is a funny story, actually. This one, and the village is called Montignac du Périgord, and I'm telling you, is you blink, you miss it. Okay, so we put in our GPS, we're driving around, we get lost, but we found our way. And then we get into this dirt road, we get down, and we think, oh, that's our place. And we see this lady, very, farm-like French lady.
Very jovial.
Very jovial. And so she comes out running around and, she will. And
the person we were supposed to meet was Karen. So
Karen.
So Dario comes out and he says, Karen?
Hello, Karen, how are you? We are here because
he's speaking in French.
We are renting this place, and she looks at me and she says, "What place?" And I says, "Well, don't we rent a place over here?" "Oh, I don't have any place." So I show her the address, and she said to us, "Oh no, it's in the other side of town." And okay, so we take off. We look silly, but who cares? And we then finally got into this little hamlet.
This hamlet of I think it was 4 houses?
There was 4 houses.
Yeah.
We got in and we rented this beautiful little house all made of stones. And it was magical. I mean, I can't even explain it because it was so magical. There was nothing around it. But the funny things about it, it was on a Sunday. So nothing was open. We had nothing. We had a bottle of wine.
They gave us a bottle of wine at the place.
And we were starving. Absolutely starving. I'm like, oh my God, there is nothing we can go. So we drive around and trying to figure our way around. And we found this little place that was selling pizza. I leave Italy, I go to France, I'm going to have.
Yeah.
So I go into this guy, I said, well,
in most places you can't do takeout. It's very unusual.
Yeah. So we have this pizza. We go back to our place. And I'll tell you, it was the most magical.
Pizza and wine by the pool under the stars.
It was the most magical night. Then to these days, we tell everyone because we really had not very much. We didn't experience yet those flavor of the food valley, but it was the moment we had together, right then and then. Then it almost brought tears to our eyes because it was just perfect. So sometimes these things that happen, they happen for a reason, and that reason for us, it just it's still imprinted in our head.
So let me ask this, and I think I might kind of know the answer just from talking with you for just this short time. But when you do travel, it sounds like, first of all, you don't typically do like hey, we're going to do a 10-day trip and head back home. It sounds like you try to spend longer in a place and really get to immerse yourself and get to know the locals and the culture. And that being said, it sounds like you really don't plan a ton. I mean, unless you have to because you have some sort of a seminar type thing, or like a class that you're teaching or something like that. But otherwise, it sounds like you pretty much have a wide open schedule and you just kind of let life happen.
And that I'd say 90%, that's the way it is. But there's always that 20%. There's that little thing that I
I'm
kind
gonna
of
call
want
you
to
out.
see.
You just went 110% there.
Ah!
Oops. 90%. There's that 10%.
No, I would say more of a 20. I'm the bad influence.
Yeah.
You should live life at
I was
110%.
wrong.
Yeah.
So
you
the
should.
10% is those things that I want to see. Like I think about when we went to San Francisco, I was dying to see Alcatraz, and I go online and they said to me, it said on there, be there for 6 in the morning because the lineups are long to get there at 6 in the morning. And they're like, no, you need to book it 6 months out. So there's certain things that, I look in Sardinia. We went to Sardinia and I also wanted to see Azanata, which is an island. And we wish we would have booked things in advance. So there's those because all of a sudden the what's it called? Maestral wind came in, and we weren't able to take the boat over, so we were sort of limited to that. So I think if there's something very specific that you want to do, travel has changed. I know that many times we've gone to Amsterdam, and I've wanted Dario to see Anne Frank House, which I think is an important one to go to. And I've seen it many times, but you have to book it so far in advance. So I think there's that 90-10 rule that you need to if there's something specific. But that's what we've done. We go into places, we really, all of Europe, we've gone in and we've really gone into those hidden gems and really felt the culture, seen those little experiences. Like we have this one in our Anita and Dario Adventures, we have Pontremoli. It's a 3-part series, and it's a cute little town. And the way we've actually done the production, it was not a full production. It was me with my phone following Dario and this girl that had lived there. And it was just so unique, going into the man that had the bar that he, if you want food, don't come here. And he had the specialty drink that he offered, to the kind of pasta that they make there that's really specific to that area, and to us going to their home, to making the tart that's very specific to the area, and the lady telling Dario how to make it. This is what you need to do, to seeing their land where they had grapes and they had olive orchards, and drinking their wine. It's just really, and that's how we were able to offer the retreats that we do. Like the retreats this year are all sold out already, because once someone's been on one, they go into the next one, because we offer these unique experiences. And now we're opening up for May next year in 2027, because we engross ourselves in there. So we have our experience and our wisdom from the past, me from the travel industry, and of course now going out there together and exploring, we bring something different, right?
So, and I want to piggyback off of what we were just talking about, because one of the things, I feel like you're both very kind. You seem very kind, very curious, and very open. How many times, give me a guesstimate, how many times have you just been invited into a stranger's home when you've been traveling?
So many. And I have a problem. I talk to everybody.
Okay, let me tell you.
That's not a problem. I don't think it's a problem.
run into the randomest people.
Let me tell you something.
This isn't going to go well.
So I give you 2 scenarios. Yes, Anita will speak with anybody. I can go to the bathroom for 10 seconds. I come back. I know she's talking to somebody. But in the same token, I'm as bad myself. So the most important thing is really to feel people, and never be afraid and never be shy to connect with people, because that's how you learn. And I'll give an example. Sometimes when we were for the 3 months in Costa Rica, I was so fascinated to know about the local. And we had one of the construction guide, and he was fixing our outside shower on the house we were renting, like a little. And I started talking to him, and he started telling me about his finca. Finca is his farm, his animals, and this and that. And he says, I have this from this plant, and it's almost like a cactus plant. I make this juice. Then it's very good. It's antioxidant. And I said, I want to try it. So you think everyone, North America, European, they live in this place, they never heard anything about it. Next thing I know, the next day it brings me this bottle of this juice. The pool guy, he says, oh, every morning, I got to milk the cow and I have fresh milk. And I said, well, I'll try it. So we had fresh milk every morning. So he will get up in the morning, he have to do his chores at home, then he will come and do chores around the pool, clean it up, and I have fresh milk. And everybody said, how do you get all this?
And also what was the other one?
The other one was the lady. The lady named
the empanada?
The empanadas.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh. There was a lady then, she was a single mom, and to make ends meet, she was making this empanada at home, and cheese empanada, spicy empanada, savory sweet. And she would basically, on her little scooter, she would go place to place to see if everybody wanted to buy them. So she would sell a package of empanada for, I don't know, $1, $2. And I'm like, oh my God. So she would call me on WhatsApp the night before and say, what would you like? Well, I'll take this, 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 and that. And she would come to our house with a motorcycle.
I'm salivating thinking about it.
And drop the empanada.
Oh, this is
and
wonderful.
at that point, now all our neighbors now were doing business with her. So imagine this lady was there forever. Nobody even knew about it. The problem is sometimes you need to ask. Sometimes you need to connect. Sometimes you need to be there and feel the local, because there is so many amazing jewels that comes to you that you're not aware. So, and we still keep in contact with them.
Yeah, we do.
And it's crazy to think because, growing up in the United States, again, specific, that's the only lifestyle I know. The thought of just inviting a stranger into my home and cooking a meal for them or whatever is just completely foreign to me. You just don't do that because we just don't trust that, people are good and that they're sincerely just curious. And, but I just feel like in other countries, I just feel like it's just so different.
Yeah, they open themselves to meeting new people. There's actually a TV show I think it's called The Kindness Diaries.
The Kindness Project.
Kindness Project. That's what it's called. And it's a really interesting story about a man I think he's from the UK, or he's actually quite wealthy. And he travels from Alaska down to Argentina.
Yeah.
And he has to live on the kindness of others. And he has to get money to fix his car, for gas, for food, and he needs a place to stay at night. So he approaches these people and says, can I have a place to stay? And it's interesting to see the people that have the least are the ones that offer the most.
Yes.
And it's a really interesting, the one in I think it was in Peru, brought me to tears. It was just such an interesting story. And so it's really an interesting show if anyone ever gets a chance to watch it.
And he's so amazing because he really brings you down to reality. We are all people. We are all the same. We have fortune, misfortune, we have ups and downs, but at the end of the day, we're all the same. And when you travel, when you're away from your comfort zone, you become vulnerable but aware. Mm-hmm. And the most important thing, I agree. I mean, of course, you don't want to all the time invite everybody to your house, and if you don't know. But you gotta go by feeling. You gotta feel things. But you really gotta fill it with purpose. And that's what we do with our clients on our retreat. We always say to them, I said, you really need to feel it. You need to feel like you are an Italian for a week or 10 days. We don't take him just to the most glamour place. We are, but then the most memorable experience for them. I remember when we took him to Tuscany, we had these beautiful villas in Tuscany. Their best experience was a Tuscan barbecue that we done on our friend's house because we
And
created.
our line was, "What happens in Tuscany stays in Tuscany." We had so much fun.
But the way we did it, it was just this beautiful event. I mean, our friends in Tuscany, they have this house, then you face on the Chianti Valley. But then we brought in a folkloristic band. They were dancing. They really felt like like my friends when we get together in Italy. They were drinking limoncello. They were having grappa. They were having bottles and bottles of wine. They were tasting delicious meal, and nobody was ever uncomfortable. And you know the funniest thing? My friends don't speak English, but they always understood each other. And to these days, whenever I talk, because our clients, for some reason, they follow us in another retreat, they always remember that moment. And it was nothing special.
And Tuscany is kind of our baseline. That's our first one that people come to, and we're opening up another one in next May. And we have things where they go to Michelin star restaurants and they go see how Parmigiano Reggiano is made. There's all these different things that are new experiences, but it's always that Tuscan barbecue that have people coming back, and they're just like, what a joy that these people invite them to their home. They're just so gracious. We have so much fun. And like I said, what happens in Tuscany stays in Tuscany, because by the end of it, we end up doing karaoke. We had so much fun.
It was 3 o'clock in the morning when we.
Yeah, it was 3 o'clock in the morning. And so, and then we always play it by, how everyone feels with it, right? And it's all like-minded people that have joined. We have people from, their 40s up till their 70s that are there. So it's, and everyone just feels like family by the end of it.
But the most amazing thing about this one, the most fascinating, some of all these people are very successful people, like very successful in their life. Probably would never think they would do anything like that. We got from neurologists, from big entrepreneur, big CEO. But when they're there, you will never know. They are, and it brings almost tears to my eyes sometimes when I see them at their normal, because nothing really matters. Nothing really matters. This is what travel does. It really doesn't matter who you are. And I often say, and it's one thing that I always say, I never ask people what they do. I always ask them, how are they doing? And that is the most important thing. In North America, the first thing you meet someone and say, hey, what do you do? Because we want to grade you right away. Are you important? Are you? No, how you doing? How you doing? How you feeling?
Yeah. And you said these people are very successful. And I think success in a way is subjective, because success in a career is one thing, but to be successful and truly happy is something completely different.
I think it allows them just to be. I think when we get caught up in this, and like you're saying, you're working at a bank, and I've been helping entrepreneurs for a lifetime now, and so there's just so much structure to that, and doing one of these experiences. Travel allows you to open up and be different. The one couple that Dario was talking about, we had this pizza experience where we took them to a farm and they used product that was all local. And so it wasn't even really considered a pizza because the consistency wasn't what we would think of in North America. It's delicious. And from that, this couple ended up coming back to Florida, actually, and they created this fundraising thing. So once a month, they make pizzas and they pick different charities every month and who that charity will be, something that's local. And they'll make pizzas and they'll sell them for a minimum of $20 a pizza. But some people pay $500 for a pizza and they put it all towards a different charity every month. And they love it. Like it's their passion to do this because they've learned how to do it. They love to cook. Based on our international dinner club that we did, it's about bringing people together and cooking, and it's just it all ties in. It all ties into exploring more and traveling more and doing more and savoring life.
It's also has something like it also brings to mind the old adage, and it's a biblical thing, but if you give a man a fish, he eats for a day, and if you teach a man to fish, he eats for a lifetime. And it's almost like, you're not just giving people a meal that they can enjoy and bring back memories, but if they learn how to actually do it, they're creating memories for other people.
Yeah.
They're paying, like almost like paying it forward in a way, which I think is beautiful.
Yeah, yeah, and it's a really nice way to put it. And when people understand, like they think of our eat, work, play, they're like, that doesn't connect, right? And you just said it so perfectly because we do cooking classes. We have a membership site where people can go into, and they can, this month we're doing soup. How do you make soup? How do you do it together? How do you create it with, you know, your friends, your family, your spouse, or even on your own, if that's the way it is. But how do you make delicious soups that you can store, you can do, and it's all that connection piece and learning how to do it, and then it carries on into your life into other areas.
Yeah, there's a couple things I want to say real quick. One of the things that
Okay.
it actually it jumped into my mind a while ago, and you just brought it back for me, is for those of us that, I didn't grow up in a family where we cooked together as a thing, but I do have those strong memories of the few times that I did as a kid help with like my mom in the kitchen or my grandma in the kitchen or whatever. And I think that that's something that we can all take away from this is something even what you would think is as small as that, but you never know. First of all, what kind of memories you're creating for your children or grandchildren or whatever the case is, or nieces, nephews, whatever. And you might create a passion for someone like Dario. All of a sudden the life becomes the life of a chef. And I think part of that like was because of upbringing and whatever.
What? For
And the other,
true.
go ahead.
That's sorry, go on.
Well, the other thing I was just going to say, and this was sort of a side note, but another thing that I think of when I think of being in Europe and families, and I feel like when you're talking about having these experiences with your guests and whatnot, I feel like physical touch is a different thing in different places, where whether it's just a pat on the back or a hug or, a strong handshake that really means something or, I don't know, like, does that make sense? Cause I feel like that's something also that we get in Europe and in other countries that we don't necessarily do. Again, I'm here in the States. So
Well, I know in Holland you kiss 3 times, and in Italy you do too.
Italy, we hug and kiss men, women, and everybody.
I feel like it relaxes people and makes you feel like you already have a bond.
Yeah, yeah.
And it's such an important being. Uh, you know, there is a saying, and we have it on our site. And I'm gonna tell you in Italian, then I'm gonna translate it for you. A tavola si invecchia. Table, no one gets old. And my point is, when you sit at the table, and you sit at the table, you eat a meal, then you're done together, and you talk about your day, and you really engage with the person you love, with the friends, or the people, you really rejuvenate. You're not gonna get old, and that is one thing. I mean, my grandmother, I'll tell you, she cooked, and sometimes she cooked for 20. Do you know why? Because my friends sometimes would just pop in, and she made sure that they had to sit down and eat. That was not expected, but that's the way it happened. Things were just, I think we live sometimes on a life that is very structured, and we believe you need some type of structure. Don't get me wrong. But sometimes you need to have some life that is alive. And I'm reading a note here, if you allow me to. This is one.
Sure.
I'm sitting in Anita's office, and this is a note that Anita has in her office, and I'm gonna read it to you. This is your life. Do what you love and do it often. If you don't like something, change it. Start doing things you love. Stop overanalyzing. Life is simple. Every last bite, open your mind. Travel often. Getting lost will help you find yourself. Life is live your dream and share short your passion. It's such of a beautiful thing. And I'm looking at it and I'm saying, this is exactly what everybody, I think, and I'm talking to myself and Anita, this is what it's all about. And one of the most important things that I got is probably because we rediscover ourselves later in life. And we had our first relationship that were completely different than what we are. But the opportunity was there for us to rediscover each other and really put our energy in what we really care and what we love. Because life is only one, and you want to make sure that you enjoy it. They give you one passport, one way ticket. So you got to make sure you use your points and travel as much as you can.
Yeah, it's not a dress rehearsal.
No, so true.
It isn't.
Yeah.
Did you mention something when I just jumped into my head? I have a very Italian family that lives across the street from me, and we do some get-togethers once in a while in the neighborhood, and they're really the catalyst of it, and I love them so much for it. And did you mention grappa?
Oh yeah,
Isn't that Italian moonshine?
It's dangerous stuff.
that's fuel.
That's serious stuff. Like I'm almost 50 years old and I grew more hair that night on my body.
Listen, grappa we take it very serious. When we go home in Italy, and we have a friend of ours, then is his own grappa.
He mixes all his moonshine.
So you know the funniest thing is, you see a bottle of water, and you think it's water, but he has to bottle it somewhere, and sometimes doesn't have any more bottles. So now you use this mineral bottle.
It's danger zone.
Fills it on with the grappa.
Yeah. Is it sparkling or still? No, it's going to knock you on your butt. That's what it is.
Oh my god! And
We actually got olive oil in a water bottle once. We went and met some people in Sicily. And next thing we go, oh, you got to try our olive oil. Next thing you know, we've got all these water bottles full of olive oil. It's too funny.
Oh,
it's
That's
really it's those things, and they just it's memories, and we live by memory, and hopefully we can share those memory through our kids, through the people then they're around us, and I think Anita said something very very important. You know, fill up your bucket list of whatever list it is until you can, because your health is very very important, and we're talking about principle. I mean, the Mediterranean lifestyle that we create as a principle, and one of those principles is staying active. If you're staying active, if you're staying fit, if you eat well, if you're balanced, you are able to do those things. You'll be able to travel. You'll be able to stay fit. I mean, Anita, many years ago, she took a group to do the Camino de Compostela. I mean, you want to talk maybe about that? I mean, that was an experience for yourself too.
Yeah, yeah.
this would be a perfect way to kind of wrap the stories before we get into our final 5 questions. Because I was going to ask you, do you have like
Oh, you
one
have
final?
question?
I have a final 5 questions I always wrap the show with, and I want to be respectful of your time, especially Daria's. So yeah, but I was going to ask if you had one final, and this would be magical. I love stories from the Camino.
Yeah. No, it was just a magical time. I brought a group of ladies there. And so when I did my getaway to Find Your Way retreats, it was always sort of like a workshop based type thing where we would go somewhere, we would taste the food, we'd meet people, we'd learn cultures, then we goal set to what was needed to be done. But the Camino was a totally different experience, right? Training for it, getting ready to be able to do it. And we had different stops at each point. So it was kind of organized, but it wasn't. And it wasn't workshop based. It was what you could experience and what your Camino angels were. And the people that we met along the way, the things that opened up along the way were just incredible. And it's just a different way of living. You get up in the morning, you put on a backpack, and you follow an arrow. It's just so different. And it really is such an inspiring way to live. And there's nothing else there. And so a lot of magical things that happened, people that had passed away in my past that sort of came back in memory, and it just can go on forever. Dario is patting me on the shoulder. He's going to make me cry. But, and everyone got a great experience out of it. And, each moment, every night we would get together as a group and people that we'd meet, and we'd sit down and we'd have a drink and we would talk about our communal angels of that day. And it was just such a an eye-opening experience, and the cultures and the things to do. We end up in one area where they're famous for their octopus, right? So next thing we had to try that. So it was really, really nice. Now the Camino has changed quite a bit. I mean, now I think someone told me you can take taxis and there's so many other parts of it. So it's a different kind of experience. But one day I want to be able to take Dario and do it from Porto. I'd like to go from the Portuguese way and go that way.
Yeah, I've had many guests on the podcast that have done one form or fashion, one of the paths of the Camino, and I've kind of said every time, like, I just don't think that I could do it. I don't think it's for me. I don't think that's the kind of thing. But honestly, the more I hear about it and how moving and touching some of the stories are, and whether it's just things that happen just for you personally, or the people that you meet that have extraordinary stories, and people who shouldn't even physically be trying to do any bit of this, that are pushing themselves to the limit because it means so much to them. And I don't know, like, I kind of feel as time has gone on that maybe this is something I should look into, but I
Well, it
just,
was interesting. Just before I did it, actually, I was diagnosed with melanoma, and the major part of it was actually on the back of my hip. So when I was actually walking the Camino Trail, I was bleeding because I still was recovering from that surgery, and they told me that I shouldn't do it. But of course, I was leading the group, so I felt it was really important. I remember the first day, even though I somewhat trained, and I was, it was 10 years ago, if not more, maybe 12 years ago now. I was much more fit. And so I thought, oh, I can do this. And I remember that first day getting up early and going a little bit through the mountainside. I was like, what am I doing? What is this crazy? But I think it's something that everyone needs to experience, even if it's not the full one, which I did. You can go from Saria, I think it is. I think even Porto is not as much, but I think it's something that I think everyone should try. I really do, and do a walking trip of some sort. This was a very spiritual one, but they have them all over. They have them in Italy. They have them in the UK. I mean, there's so many places you can do. And yeah, I think it would be something nice for you to try. Maybe come on Porto one with us.
let me know. Let me know. I mean, yeah, I mean, let me know.
Okay, perfect.
So again, to be respectful of time, and I know Dario has to go very, very soon, if not nowish. The final 5 questions can be as rapid fire as you want them to be. Okay. So do not feel that you're obligated to expand or expound on these answers. You are welcome to. I have people that have gone into new stories that we've got another half an hour. But
I have lots of time. I dedicate myself to you. So nothing is more important.
Changed it. Okay, good.
I changed my thing. So we are all here for you. It's very important for your audience and to yourself to be
Present.
present.
yeah, well, you're awesome. And well, I mean, with that being the case, then I'm going to give you this one opportunity before I move on to this to say,
Yes.
is there any, are we missing something? I know that you probably have 1,000 stories that we're not talking about. And maybe what we should do is do this again down the road at some point where we can talk a little bit further and maybe about some more different experiences. But is there anything that just jumped in your mind before we get to that that's like, I have to tell this before we kind of get to that end?
Oh, he's got something.
That is that is one.
Please,
We
love it.
were in Paris, and we went to Montmartre. For people that go to Paris, there is all the beautiful thing to look at it. To me, Montmartre or Sacré-Cœur is something. Then I lived in France, and I think there is such of
Sacred Heart, right?
Yeah.
Sacré-Cœur,
Yeah.
and Sacred Heart. That's right. And anyway, so we go up there, and it's later at night, and we say, well,
We're in the artist district.
we're in our district. And one of the things about Sacré-Cœur and Montmartre is all these amazing, I think, artists. Then for some way, they had a really rough life, or they drink themselves to death, or they just, they never made it. But they still are
And their
painting.
stuff is good.
Their stuff is phenomenal. So we go up there, and the way it is almost like an oval shaped square, and they have all these little restaurants. So myself and Anita sit down to have something to eat. And all these guys come in and say, can I draw a picture of you? No, none of them really inspire us. But then this man came, and he was from Transylvania, and you could see that he was really beat up. And he says, would you like me to do a picture? I say, why not? Why don't you draw a picture of Anita? We have that picture. And we are eating. He sits down and we offer him something and he's there. Obviously, we are not going to offer him wine because we know then he probably will love that. And we spend 2 hours with him at a restaurant while he's drawing and he's doing his own thing. And he's telling us a story. These men spoke 8 languages.
We learned so much from him.
Fluent. The most intelligent man you could ever meet. He spoke my language, Italian, fluent. And the story that he went through and the things that he's done, it was just remarkable. But he was talking so much and he was lighting one cigarette to the next one. And I'm like, oh my God, I wonder what he's going to come up with. So at the end of it, we offer him a coffee after, as we were drinking a coffee after dinner. So that basically the conversation went through our all dinner. So basically it was a dinner of 3. And then he turns around and says, so here is the picture. And he's drawing it with his unsharpened pencil and he's scrapping it.
Half talking.
And he was stunning. It was almost a photocopy of Anita. He's sitting on the stool on a little pot, what do you call it? The tripod there, the little thing. And he's sketching away. And I said, well, I probably lost 20 euro here. But it was probably the best 20 euros I've ever spent because for many reasons. One, because I really felt, and for that night, we gave him an opportunity to actually feel good, connect. We learned a lot.
Yeah, we learned a lot.
We learned a lot about many things. And we had this beautiful picture of Anita. So again, it was a thing that we never planned it. We went up there and it was just so empowering. And to this day, it's those memories.
I love it so much. One of the things that I do ask, and I usually ask this offline, but I ask my guests if you have any photos of the places that we've talked about, if you could send any of those to me to post on my socials, I would love to post that photo.
Okay.
That's
Yeah.
right.
Yes.
Incredible. You guys are awesome. This has been really a fantastic conversation, and I could definitely talk to you for another hour. But and I know you said you're mine, but I do want to be respectful in case, because sometimes these questions do expand a little bit. And so the first question, if you don't mind if I move into the final 5.
Yeah, of course.
Go for it. Yeah.
The first question, you've already given me one answer, Dario, and I want you to skip that one. So you have to come up with new ones, and I'd like you to both to have one if you do. And if they're both the same, that's fine. My first question is, and I phrase this very carefully, of all of the places in the world that you have been, outside of whatever home you're living in, what's been your most memorable meal experience that you've had, and what was that? I know it's got to be difficult.
It is difficult because we've been, because Dario has some chef friends that have these exquisite restaurants all over the world. We've had some experiences that are even difficult to explain. And you talked earlier on about being food and not really cooking and stuff with your family. Like I was like that too. My mom used to kick me out of the kitchen. So that wasn't my life until I met Dario. So, these experiences are exceptional. What comes to mind is a crazy one, but, one of the times when we brought the students to Italy, the chef students, I remember I was just dying for a pizza. And there's this Napoleon pizza in Emilia Romagna where we were in Colorno. And he made this pizza that I said, just make something different. And I forget what was on it. It was
Stracciatella,
mortadella,
pistachio,
pistachio.
and
And I never had one like that. And I guess it was just that moment that, your first meal when you get to Italy. I've had so many great meals, and especially the ones at home. Like Dario is exceptional, right? So it's difficult because he's understood my flavor profile. So he makes things that are to my taste buds. So but we're talking about travel here. So I just kind of think that's probably one of my memories of travel that sticks out. But I mean, I could go on for an hour.
I can tell you one that it was just, there's so many, okay? You gotta bear with me because I know Anita probably remember the time we were having tigella in Bologna.
Oh yeah,
We
unbelievable.
were in the little street corner in Bologna, and we sat down at these little restaurants, and we had tigella, which is basically this flatbread. Then it's warm, made from the region of Emilia Romagna with all this wonderful charcuterie. But to me, it was recent actually. Last October, we were on the foot of Mount Etna in Sicily.
We did this project for the European Union for olive oils.
And so we went to this restaurant and they made, it's called pasta alla norma. So basically it's this pasta, then it's got eggplant and it's got some smoked ricotta or mozzarella, and then it's got tomato. But this tomato, oh my goodness, I want to send you that picture. I I got water in my mouth right now because that plate of pasta that I had that day would actually brought tears to my eyes. I could almost taste, the volcanic sand of the Vesuvio, of the Etna, sorry, because those tomato were grown nearby there, of the volcano. It was the most delicious thing. Then if it will be the last meal that I'm gonna have, that's what I want.
So I love what you just said there because, and I've experienced this to some degree in Italy, very specifically, that I think you mentioned a dish that had maybe 4 or 5 ingredients. And
That's it.
it does not take a lot when you have the right ingredients. So
True.
it's
true.
beautiful. It's so beautiful. And I love the variety of answers I get to that question because I've actually had somebody answer, it was at this place with my family and whatever, and the view and just the discussions and whatever. And I said, well, what did you eat? And he said, I don't remember. And it was the experience. It wasn't about the food at all. And
For us is the moment. For us is it's the experience. There is so many things go with it. The thing in Bologna with the tigella, we were just coming back from I don't know where.
You called it like a flatbread, but you know what? It's almost like what you'd think of North America as a country biscuit.
Yeah, it's a little flatter. It's almost
Yeah.
yeah. So I guess you can call it, but it was just, and Anita, what she wanted to stop in Bologna. I gotta be honest because this is the thing. You talk about planning things and then get off the. We were coming back and she says, and we were going up to Milan and I said, oh come on, let's not stop in Bologna. She said, oh come on, let's stop to Bologna. Okay, we stop in Bologna. She said, well, I'm hungry, and
Always hungry.
so we look around, and I think actually you found this place because I didn't know about it. And it was this little trattoria in close to the main square in Bologna, and the food came out, and it was just
now I'm so upset. And I very much enjoyed Bologna. I was just there a couple of years ago, but I'm so upset. I didn't know about this place.
Yeah.
Why would it come on one of our retreats?
So I guess that's going to have to be the plan. Well, I mean, I also have to have Dario's cooking in your home because I guess that's also a thing. And so I guess we're just going to start hanging out a lot.
that's on your own.
Okay, this question I think is going to be very difficult for both of you, but I could be very wrong. I'm usually wrong. Don't be upset if you don't have an answer. Of all the places in the world that you have ever been, even if I said to you guys, here's a free trip, have fun, you would say, no, thank you. I do not want to go back for any reason.
I guess I should have had these questions beforehand because
No, I love the spontaneity part of it because especially with like the food question, because it's what jumps into your head at first,
yeah. I've gotten to the point where I there's still a lot of places I want to see. So in my mind, there's a lot of places that I'm saying I don't necessarily want to go back to because I want to fill that time with places I haven't seen yet. So
Great.
it kind of answers it, but it doesn't answer it because it's not a really specific place. Some of it is kind of like family based. I go there to see the family and everything. And it's a hard call because I enjoy that time, right? Like it's so important to do that. What about you, Dario? Is there anything that
And there is probably one place, and it was not a bad place, but I have no interest to go back. The Algarve in Portugal.
yes, yeah.
We love Portugal, but that would probably be a place that I would not, again, because the reason is very touristy. Um,
But we are planning a retreat there too, so
yeah,
we will be going back.
we would go to Portugal, but in part, I just, it's not a place that probably would go.
Okay. That's very fair. Both answers are very fair. So let's flip that. But we're going to make this difficult for you as well. Of all the places in the world that you have been, if you only had for some reason, and I don't mean to be morbid, but if you only had time for 1 or 2 more trips in your lifetime, where are the 1 or 2 places that you have been that you have to go back to for whatever reason?
To go back to, that's the hard one. I'm thinking of places that I haven't been to yet that I want to be able to
Well,
see.
that's coming.
So, okay. I really enjoy Italy, to tell you the truth. So I definitely would want to go back there and to the Netherlands to see my family, right? To me, those are two that are meaningful for me. There's a town that both my parents were born in, and they're not with me anymore. So to go back to those towns, they always have a meaning. Whenever I go there, I do the same thing that I did with them when I was younger. And so to me, I would do something like that for memory.
To me, I think if I will go back, and it's a place in really, it's quite special. It's in Sardinia. Sardinia is the little island in the southern part of Italy. I think that it's a place that I would definitely go back.
Yeah, it's beautiful there. Dario used to work there in a luxurious hotel. And he actually took me back there saying, I'm going to show you where I worked. And I went by and I went, wow, what's that? I didn't realize it was so nice.
And you know why I would want to go back there? Because it's so natural, it's so beautiful, it's so wild, and the same token is very pristine. If it does make any sense.
No, yeah.
It's just all those things.
Yeah.
It's very wild because there is a lot of wilderness on it. It's beautiful because, I mean, the island, the seaside, the ocean, the beach are probably the most beautiful I've ever seen in my life. And it's just, the food, the people, it's just, they embrace you. Yeah, that's definitely a place I would want to go. And that's one of the places that people live the longest.
Yep.
Yes. Is it a green zone or whatever is that what the word called? Green zone. Blue zone. Yeah. Yeah. There's one area of Costa Rica also that's a blue zone that, but yeah,
We
that's,
just put that one on our list for a retreat as well to bring people to, I think. Sardinia.
that's wonderful. And the cool thing for me is, and I've heard people give me answers of places where they had magical experiences and they may have been decades ago. And I will say to them, do you have any fear of, we look through our memories with rose-colored glasses sometimes. And would you fear that when you went back again, you would almost be disappointed because you couldn't recreate that first time and those memories that you have? But for you, you've been there multiple times. And so if you still feel that way, I feel like that's justified.
I think also but you made a good point. I mean, I think I always liked it, but I loved it this time because I gotta sound cliche here, but those moments are beautiful because we done it together. I mean,
Sure.
when we are together,
Because you're in love and it's wonderful.
well, but it's really magical because where we are, how we doing it. I remember we went to this beach in Emerald Coast, and it's the first time that Anita looks at me and says, "I want to go." She says, "I want to go."
I was ready to sleep on the beach.
It was just this beautiful little spot. It was just everything was just perfect. Yeah.
Can I ask you? Well, I'm going to ask you, but you don't have to answer. Anita, you had mentioned you would go back. Did you say the Netherlands?
Yes.
And you said that you would do things that you used to do with your parents. Are you able to share any of what those things are, or is that too much?
It's just towns that they were brought up in, towns that one of them is called Hutarrenberg, which is where my dad was raised. It's the oldest town in South Holland. And it just brings back memories to when I was a kid because I used to go there all the time. I'd see my grandparents. So every year, we never had a cottage. We never went to the Caribbean. We went to Holland, and that was part of it. And so all those memories, and Dario even sees it when I go over to the Netherlands, and I just have this change in who I am. I just get so happy to see my family. My cousins are close. My kids that are 30 and 28 now have friends in Holland as well from, because the family's extended. Just recreating all those things that I used to do with them. It brings a joy to my heart. And I don't think if people went there, they wouldn't get that same feeling. So it's really not like I could say a travel destination that I'd say, oh, wow, you have to go here because you experience it. You have to have been through it and lived through it like I did.
No, this is all about you. So no, thank you for sharing that. I appreciate that.
Yeah.
So this one's going to be very difficult. Maybe they all are. The next one's easy. I'll tell you that for sure. So this one is, for you guys, could be very difficult, but especially for you, Anita. Of all the places in the world that you have never been, this is question 4, if for some reason you could only get to 1 or 2 of your destinations that are on your bucket list, what would those 1 or 2 be and why?
For me, I've never got a chance to go to Peru, so I want to hike Machu Picchu. And I had organized a group there once, of female entrepreneurs, to go to Machu Picchu. Oh my gosh, I'm going to say 15 years ago now. And I overbooked it. I didn't have my own travel agency at the time, so I overbooked it and I wasn't able to go myself. So I had to do a workshop with the group before and I had to do a workshop with the group after. And so it's still on my bucket list, just something to still go and see and experience. I'd love to do that with Dario. Another one I really would like to go to is Hawaii. For me, Hawaii, I just have this vision, and I have never been, of these waterfalls and these hikes and these scenic things and volcanoes. And so for me, I would love to experience that as well.
Dario? Do we lose you?
You wish I spoke longer so we'd have more time.
Okay, you have really 2 spots. Actually, there are 2.
I can say them for you. I know what they are.
Okay, say it.
Well, one is Africa, on a safari,
Yes,
and the other was Egypt, was it not?
that's right.
Yeah.
See, she knows me well. Egypt, because I'm fascinated with history. I just am very curious. I like the kind of the culture, and I want to know more. And Africa, because of not necessarily those fancy safari. I really want to kind of rugged it. I really want to feel Africa. It's one of those things, then you cannot do it in a week. And you brought something very interesting. We never done trip of a week, 2 weeks. Our trips sometimes are a month, 2 months, 6 months, or 2 years. So it's one of those things that I really want to embed myself and really feel it, understand what it's all about. It's always been on my bucket list. The first time myself and Anita reconnected, we wrote down on a piece of paper, we're in a restaurant, and we still have them, all our bucket list places, and that's one of them. Africa for sure, and Egypt, and in Peru. Peru definitely is always a place that I'm always fascinated with, because the Machu Picchu, it's a place that I want to see, and the food, because right now Peruvian food is the top of the top, to be honest with you. So I got 3 places.
It
Sorry.
may sound crazy, but I will tell you, if you get to Machu Picchu, when you're spending some time maybe in Aguascalientes, try the guinea pig. I'm telling you, it is so worth it. It's so worth it. And I will also mention self-promotion. Go back to episode 51 and listen to Xander Sprague talk about the safaris in Africa. And
Oh, well.
you can maybe give a little tip there for a place to go.
Okay, sounds great.
Yes. So let's head to question 5. And if anything pops up that you'd like to add, you're more than welcome. But question 5 is very easy because you already know what you already have planned. Anita and Dario, where are you going?
Well, actually, our next one is a retreat in April. So we're bringing people to Italy for a retreat in April and in September. But we're also booked for a project in Saudi Arabia.
That's very unique. When are you going to Saudi Arabia?
Well, that's because Saudi Arabia is in June. So hopefully things have settled down over there at that point.
Yeah.
Dario has been hired as a as a brand ambassador for European Union for tomatoes. And we have a whole bunch of events that we're doing out there, which is supposed to roll out. We're going to be at the Fancy Food in New York City in June as well, right afterwards. So we've got a lot of projects that are coming up for you to be able to experience some of Dario's cooking and what we're doing with the tomatoes. And so, yeah, that's our next places that we're traveling to. So in April and then in September, we have another retreat that we're doing as well. And then the one that we're launching that's open for next year. So
We just got back actually, which was very interesting. We just got back from the Middle East also. We still with the European Union. We were in Dubai and in Qatar. And to be honest with you, I was absolutely fascinated with Qatar. It's one place and I really didn't know too much about it, didn't have too much expectation, and I was pleasantly surprised. If you really want to experience something different, and even, we were walking to the souk, which is basically the old market in Doha. And some of the food, some of the flavors is unbelievable, unbelievable. So now we're going to find out what Riyadh is going to have to offer us. And
so hopefully things will settle by June. So because it's already booked and planned, and we've been hired to do this. So
Oh, best of luck with that. Is there any just personal travel for fun that you have, even a thought of, even if it's not scheduled yet, but right?
well, I think we were looking at next winter going to Asia, to Thailand, the Philippines for next winter. A lot of it's sort of work projects that we have going on, and because we do so many of these retreats now too, right? So we've been asked to roll out more of them. Those are the kind of the ones that we're doing, but we get to enjoy it too, because it's like we're a family. When we get together and do these things, it's a lot of fun as well.
But we are curious about the Philippines. I mean, we have friends down there that live there. Actually, one of the guys used to work for me, and his mom is from the Philippines, and his dad is from Scotland. And he worked with me at the restaurant many years ago, and he decided to go see his motherland on a holiday. Never really knew too much about the Philippines. Never came back. And he's been there now for 22 years. He's in Boracay, so we are planning to go there.
And explore.
And then Thailand, we got they're a friend of ours. Then he's in Cambodia. Then he's been inviting us to that. So we might do that. So potentially it's going to be 2 months.
So Asia's on our mind. So
Mine too. I need to find more friends that live in places like Asia and thereabouts. And I added a bonus question because you guys are very unique to this. And so I'm sorry to do this, but I'm going to ask you one final question and then we'll wrap. But tell me, if you can, a couple of your favorite like farmers markets that you've ever been to anywhere in the world. Because I feel like you seek those out when you can be around them.
well, in Italy, there's just unbelievable. I think one of the ones that stands out to me was in Catania, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And Palermo, which is in Sicily, the vegetable markets.
Mercato di Ballaro.
Oh, they were unbelievable. In San Francisco, I remember that was a few years back, so I don't know if it's still like that. They had a beautiful market
Yeah.
that was there.
But Mercato di Ballaro in Palermo was on a Food Network. And if you are going to see something special there. So Anita, we were walking around and one of our kids came and visit us and they couldn't believe it because he's wild. I mean, he's wild. But you see the most delicious food. You see a quarter of a swordfish there and the guy next is making fresh cheese. And then another guy is making a classical bread from a sandwich from there and with spleen. And then Anita says,
That's not my thing. I don't do spleen.
and then Anita saw this place and he says, "Oh, the pomegranate." And he says, "Well, you want a juice?" So they make fresh pomegranate juice right in front of you. It's just for any of your audience that will ever want to see a market worth their while, aside from also from Asia, because when you travel in Asia, and I understand you just got back from it, the markets are the best. If you go anywhere, it's
I thought Spain had some great markets too.
Spain.
Seville, unbelievable markets.
But the Mercato in Ballaro, it's
which is in Palermo.
in Palermo. It's worth to see it. You go to Palermo, if you go to Ballarò, you're missing something for sure.
But also Milan and Florence. Oh my gosh, the markets there are unbelievable.
Well, Florence, you go to the Mercato Vecchio in Florence, the old market. It's inside. Then you go to the new market. You eat on the street.
Okay, so if you're asking for one, right? So I think maybe it's Palermo.
As many as you'd like to share, this is wonderful.
It's
Sorry about that. We can't narrow it days.
it's Ballarò.
We're hungry, and of course, we're thinking about this. Sweet.
To me, definitely is Ballarò. To me, definitely will be Ballarò.
So wonderful.
It's unique.
I had a feeling that I would open up maybe a door I didn't mean to. But yes, sir. No, it's awesome. It's so wonderful. And I hope that, people can jot some of these things down or reach out to you through socials and be like, hey, I go where? Remember, where was that place? And so awesome. You guys, this has been so much fun. And I appreciate more than taking this much time with me, because I know that you did have some other things going on tonight, but I appreciate you so much. Is there anything you'd like to add or say before we actually hit stop?
No, I think it's just if people want to reach out, they've got the website. We're at oliveyourlife.now, the handle for our social media. We've got lots of events coming up. So if anyone's interested, we have our free ebook about the Mediterranean lifestyle that's available. And we really appreciate you. So thank you so much, Bill, for being there for us.
Yeah. And thank you, Dario, as well. I appreciate you taking the extra time.
Oh, the pleasure. Remember one thing, the Mediterranean is a lifestyle. It's not a diet.
There we go.
That is one thing we want to make sure that people understand. And your listeners need to really embrace that. You do not have diets in the Mediterranean, but we are a lifestyle.
Yeah, and I'll second that 1,000%. Thank you guys again so much. And good luck with everything you have going on, and especially good luck with everything opening up by midsummer or early summer. And I'll be following along, and we'll be in touch because we're going to hang out a whole bunch. We're going to travel together
Great.
and all that fun stuff. So thank you again, and have a wonderful evening.
Thank you. Thanks so much.
And there's another episode of the Where Have You Been podcast in the books. Thank you so much for listening today. It was another great guest with some great stories, as always. And I hope that you will support all of the guests by checking out the show notes and going to their web pages, seeing any socials and projects that they may have going on. And please, again, I'll ask as always to like, subscribe, rate, and review the podcast. It really does help to allow the podcast to grow and reach more people, and I appreciate you for doing that. Also, if you haven't done so, check out the website, whybpodcast.com, where you can find blog posts. If you'd like to be a guest, please register to be a guest on the site, and check out the merch page. There's some really cool stuff if you're interested in representing the pod, along with some other cool travel items and apparel that I'm working on every day as well. Join me again next week for another great guest with more incredible stories. New episodes drop every Sunday just after midnight Eastern Time. Until then, thank you for being here, and have a great day.